This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Mark Capitan Show. This is attorney Mark Capitan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Capitan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us at 559-498-8000. Capitan Brothers, we are the Valley's law firm. Folks, I have a very exciting show today. August of 1980. Do you guys remember August of 1980? Is the summer before my junior year in high school at Clovis West. The sounds of Van Halen, Queen, and Genesis were topping the charts, and Xanadu. Yes, Marcella Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John was in the theaters. But one of the most iconic visions of August of 1980 was an incident that was captured live on national television at State Line, Nevada, a casino called Harvey's. That day, the little South Lake Tahoe resort, brimming full with residents and tourists, watched from afar as a team of FBI and local law enforcement tried to disarm a 1,000-pound bomb placed there by a down-and-out gambler and a couple of his friends. That gambler, who at the time was in debt to the tune of $750,000 to Harvey's casino, had devised a plot to extort $3 million from Harvey Gross, the owner of the casino. If the ransom was not met, the bomb would detonate. The bomb he created was so sophisticated that bomb experts were unable to disarm it. Unfortunately, the extortion plan and the actions by the subjects were so bungled and disastrous that the feds had no alternative but to remotely explode the bomb. And during a live news broadcast at 3:45 p.m., the huge explosion occurred. It was immediately followed by cheers and applause, strangely enough, by many of the onlookers. I watched it live on TV. Honestly, I got to say, it was titillating for sure. It really was. And luckily, no one was injured, as all had been evacuated from the casino in the neighborhood there. My next guest is the son of Jim Birges, the quote-unquote, I don't know if you want to say mastermind.
Yeah, that's what they call him.
Yeah, they call him the mastermind of the operation, and was reluctantly enlisted by his father to help carry out the extortion plot at a very young age of 18 years old. As a result of his participation, he faced nearly 5 years in prison and lost any sense of youth and family. And he's here to tell his story. So I'd like to welcome to the Mark Capitan Show, from the Harvey's bombing fame, I guess we could call it, Jim Birges. Welcome, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
Hey, listen, you say, I'm going to go right to a quote that you had. You said, hey, I know this is embarrassing because I understand Netflix or there's documentaries and talks about movies being made, right?
Correct.
And you say, yeah, it's embarrassing, but if someone's going to tell the story, I want to get it right and I want to tell the story.
Yeah, you watch some of these documentaries or shows based on reality, and they have that moniker, based on true facts, when a lot of times it's just a 50% embellishment and 50% truth. So in order for me to even, cooperate, lend a hand to these guys trying to, making this documentary, I had to be assured that I could see the final cut and make sure it doesn't, while portraying reality and truth, it doesn't portray me in a sensationalized light.
And you don't care if it's an embarrassing light, if it's in a light that shows maybe a bad side of you or anything like that, just as long as it's true.
That's correct. That's correct. And, that sometimes they want to sensationalize stuff to portray you to be different. So that was a big, point to me.
Is it uncomfortable for you to sit down and have this discussion, or this many years later, do you just see it as, geez, it may be a strange part of my life, but it's part of my life?
Ironically, that incident has, other than immediately right after, really didn't have a detrimental effect on my life. I've been in business for 35 years, and
so it didn't define you as far as that's concerned.
And customers often want to talk about that as much as they want to talk about doing the jobs for them and such, because they're fascinated by it.
It is fascinating. We're going to get into the details of it, but the fact that it doesn't define you, but it had a great effect, and it may have, your dad may have had a great effect negatively on the family anyway, but it basically destroyed your family, right?
Well, what family was to destroy? There really wasn't any family to say, to speak of. My mom passed when I was 12. My dad was a landscape contractor and traveled all the time. So basically from the time I was 12, raised ourselves. And then my brother left the home when he was 16.
Right.
He joined the workforce roofing. And
but you glossed over something pretty significant, and we're going to talk about it in the second segment. You say my mom passed when I was 12. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. So let me first get into it. What was the plan? Your dad, who's this Hungarian immigrant, has a gambling problem, has debt problems with Harvey's casino, comes to you one day. What's that moment when he comes to you that day? How old were you at the time? And what does he tell you? And what do you think?
Well, a little bit of backstory. So when he immigrated from Hungary in 56, he came to the country and developed a huge business, and he was doing very, very well. Had a successful landscaping business, successful restaurant, doing well. But then, in spite of making all this money, he got addicted to gambling, and slowly but surely destroyed those businesses.
Right.
And at the time, his opinion was that he lost all his money playing blackjack at Harvey's. He was so convinced that they cheated him out of the money because he fancied himself as a genius, that nobody could beat him at blackjack, that he was going to get his money back.
Right.
And how he concocted this idea, no idea. But
well, without giving deference to your dad and his thinking at the time, it was not the typical life that he led. He was although there's some mystery behind it, he may have been a pilot with the Luftwaffe, fighting against the Soviets. He was fighting as a Hungarian freedom fighter, they said, against the Soviets. He was imprisoned. He was sentenced to 25 years at the Gulag, basically, served about 8 years, eventually immigrates. So he's led a hell of a life already.
Right.
And whether the Soviets cheated him out of part of his life or not, because he was a freedom fighter and trying to do good, basically, he must have felt that people were up against him ever since he came over, or even when he was young.
Yeah, that had a effect on the way he treated me and my brother, my mother. When my mother passed, it was suicide, is what the coroner determined. So
you don't believe that, though, right?
There's a school. There's a lot of thought that went into with the circumstance around that he did kill her. So that was never proven. He did brag about it. The autopsy report pointed that direction, but the coroner at that time ruled it as
a suicide.
She'd called 911 the day before in fear of her life, so there was a lot of circumstantial things around that.
He was abusive to your mom, beat her to the point of almost lifeless. It was abusive to you.
Yeah, just...
there's an incident where he knocked out 6 of your teeth when you were young because you had your elbows on the table?
Yeah, it was only 2, though.
It was only 2 teeth?
Yeah.
You were 6 years old. That's what it was.
Right. Yeah, and that was just his form of discipline. I mean, that was what he endured through his childhood and his life, and he just passed that on. So
unfortunately, passed it on.
And that's what my brother left at 16. He just couldn't take it anymore.
But there was a hard side to him, and now he comes to you, and it's weird because I could see it in your face that you have this struggle of, he's my father. You want to love your father, but he does these abusive things, and he's coming to you at some point at 18 years old, and he says, and we're going to go to a break here in a little bit, but he says what to you?
He outlined the fact that, he was at the end of his money, and that he concocted a plan to get it back from Harvey's, and needed to keep it in the family, and if we would help him. And
it was all around this, that he was going to devise this bomb and try to extort money out of Harvey's, right? We're going to be right back with Jim Birges, the son of John Birges, the mastermind, quote unquote, behind the Harvey's bombing in 1980. We'll be right back after this on the Mark Capitan Show. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Check out the Mark Capitan Show on the podcast by going to KMJnow.com. If you want to tell your friends about it and they missed it live, they could go to the podcast. Also, you can check us out on Facebook and on YouTube at Mark Capitan Show. So please like us, subscribe to us, do all those kind of things. Capitan Brothers, you know the drill, folks. If you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, or if you've been injured in an accident, call us at 559-498-8000. That's 559-498-8000, Capitan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. Folks, we just have a fascinating story, and I want to get right back into it. We are on with Jimmy Birges. Jimmy is... Jim?
Yeah.
Jim? Okay. Jimmy's the son of John Birges, who was the quote-unquote mastermind behind the Harvey's bombing in August of 1980. It's if you're too young to remember this live on TV like I remember, go look up Harvey's bombing on YouTube or one of those things, and you'll see a spectacular event that occurs live on live television in front of thousands of Lake Tahoe residents. Jimmy, we talked about your dad and him approaching you about this plan about extorting $3 million from Harvey Gross, the casino owner, where he had a debt of about $750,000. He tells you what? He tells you the whole plan? He's going to devise this bomb, or what's the story he tells you?
Well, he tells us he's going to build a bomb and roll it in the casino and demand a ransom to the ability to disarm it. And
is this just in passing? He just said, "Hey, son, come over." Or how's
pretty much? It was just that's what he's going to do. And
do you tell him? What kind of relationship did you have with Dad? Did you have a relationship where you say, "What are you, freaking crazy," or what?
At that point, we didn't have a relationship. I lived at the home, and he was living in Tahoe, gambling all the time.
Mom had already committed suicide, right?
This was, several years after.
Okay, and I understand he was in a downward spiral, right?
He actually had a girlfriend who, ironically, was a probation officer, and a very, very hard-nosed one at that. And so what she had been done is he signed the house over to her, and she gave him $40,000 to go gamble. That was his last bit of money. So he no longer had a home, had nothing, and that was his plan. And he approached me with that, and I went and immediately told my brother, and we scoffed at the idea. We said whatever, and laugh it off as some concocted scheme.
Your brother and you didn't have the greatest relationship. You were like a college student. He was like a stoner or something to that effect.
Yeah, he was. Your peer group kind of dictates who you are. I had a great peer group. Raced motorcycles professionally. Had a lot of people backing me and basically raising me because I had no parents. My dad was gone. My mom was dead, and my brother was working as a roofer. And did a lot of drugs, smoked a lot of weed, drank a lot, did a lot of coke, and so. But
even he knew that this is a crazy idea. Did any of you go back to him and say, "Hey, we got to talk Dad out of this. This is nuts"?
So we did. We tried to, and then he said, "Well, I'm just going to commit suicide." Then, so so he pulls that card on it, and
see, that all makes sense. I couldn't figure out why you would go along with it.
Well, that, and then I often ask myself the same thing now, because face value, you say, what are you, stupid? Why'd you go along with that? And the only thing I can equate it to is things I see is these children get kidnapped and, brainwashed. And even though they're not in prison, they still
identify.
Yeah. And so we had been beat to such extent that you're just programmed.
And years earlier, mom commits suicide, and now dad's threatening to commit suicide, and you're sitting here going, well, now I'm losing everything. I might as well go along with this.
Right. And we just, to humor him was that. And then he wound up being able to steal the dynamite.
You guys go up to Helm Lake, where there's a big Edison or a big project, electrical project, and a dam project, and you guys steal 1,000 pounds of dynamite.
He did, and
you say he did. Were you along with him at the time?
We were there. There was 2 attempts. There was big explosive locker, and at that time, the first theft attempt, there's only blasting caps in there. Okay, no dynamite. You would assume that after breaking the locks and a theft that you'd have additional security up there. So he went up there, I think 2 weeks later, that it had dynamite in it, and backed up the truck and stole the 1,000 pounds of dynamite.
Jeez.
And he knew that I knew somebody who was working there at Helms Project.
Yeah.
And that's how the information got to him. I asked that individual the location and all that, and so he was well aware, so he got that information from. So
you guys take 1,000 pounds of dynamite, you put it in a white van while there's workers just nearby, basically, and you drive back down to Clovis or Fresno, and you guys park it in your garage.
Right. Well, what he did is he had a walk-in freezer that he built at the house, and he put the dynamite in there to store, and then proceeded to start building this bomb.
He put the goods on ice.
He did.
And you guys assist in the building of the bomb?
Didn't assist, but I was still living at the home then, and I periodically would go back, and he had a shop area there, and he would show me what he was building there. He was pretty proud of himself. So,
but at some point, this is not let's humor him anymore. He's now got 1,000 pounds of dynamite that he's going to put in this thing. So it's becoming very, very real, right?
It is becoming very, very real. So the plan was he was going to roll it in the casino and then put it in the second floor where the computer offices was. The only gambling he did was at Harvey's casino, and the relationship he had with Harvey Gross was he actually stayed at Harvey's ranch, and they would fly him the helicopter into the casino, and that all played into the ransom plan
because they're going to use the helicopter to deliver the money according to what your dad's demands were.
So he had used this time to case the joint and figure out what he was going to do. So he was going to leave this on the second floor, which was the accounting offices at the time. And with a note on it, and
two guys go with him. They're dressed in coveralls. There's a cloth over this huge bomb that says IBM on it, basically like it's some sort of office equipment, from what I understand.
Well, those two only became involved because me and my brother finally came to our senses and we're out.
And that's what I was going to ask. You had been slightly participating this whole time, but that's the point where you guys back out of it?
Yep. My brother, how that came apart, they were doing a mock load of this bomb into the van with a set of ramps, and this thing weighed close to 2,000 pounds. So in hoisting it up there, the rope broke and the bomb full of dynamite rolled down, careening down the ramp, and it actually ran over my brother's finger, smashed his finger. So at that point, my brother says, "I'm out. It's a sign from God. I'm out."
Oh,
my brother found religion, and then said, "I'm out."
And as the younger brother, you said, "I'm
out too." So and not only that, I mean, who would think? First of all, I would have thought that thing would have blown up at some point along the way.
Absolutely.
Or blown up trying to put it in the casino, or blown up when they were trying to arm it. And I just said, we kept thinking he's not going to do this, he's not going to be able to do this. And then when D-Day came, he's going to be able to do it. We said, we're out. And that's when he had to recruit those two guys to push the bomb in, because he said, if I push the bomb in, if I get it in there, you guys will help pick up the money, right? And we go, sure thing. Thinking
right,
they're going to get caught or they're going to kill them. Or,
I see.
Yeah. At that point,
so he thinks that you're going to help meet the helicopter and do all these other things, and you're just like, yeah, Dad, go ahead, and with no intention of ever helping.
No,
at that point,
you would never have thought. I mean, and then the comedy of errors, putting it in. I mean, it got caught on the elevator. Security called in to help push it in.
He enlisted Harvey's own security personnel to help them push the bomb into that Harvey's casino.
Yeah, when it got stuck. They did.
And there was other problems where the ransom wasn't quite defined how they wanted to do it and deliver it. The strobe light that was supposed to signal the helicopter, the battery was dead on the strobe light. All sorts of a comedy of errors, like you stated, right?
And the main thing is the instructions on the bomb said you go to this payphone,
right,
and you wait for a phone call there at the airport. And the phone call came, and there was instructions taped to the bottom of the shelf on there. So those instructions said 50 miles this direction. Well, they didn't specify air miles or highway miles. And that's where the discrepancy, that's why the money wasn't able to be dropped at the point. Right.
So it was bungled in all different areas. We're going to be right back with Jimmy Birges, the son of John Birges, the bungling mastermind behind the Harvey's bombing casino. So, all right, we'll be right back after this. Wild story, Jimmy. This is the Mark Capitan Show on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Mark Capitan Show. Folks, so we're going to get right back into it. I just want to give you a little tip. American-made concerts for all your rock and roll entertainment needs. Go to AmericanMadeConcerts.com. They have some great shows coming up. Let's see. Zepp LA, Gilby Clarke, Damage Inc., Metallica tribute, Babylon AD, Enough's Enough, Dead Boys. Tons of great rock and roll entertainment at AmericanMadeConcerts.com. Go there for tickets and more information. We are back on with Jimmy Birges. Jimmy Birges, the son of John Birges, of infamous Harvey bombing fame from 1980s. The bombing of Harvey's casino up there in Tahoe. Jimmy, you were talking about the fact that there was a ransom note on this bomb. Basically, the ransom note, I'll tell you the story I'll let you tell the story, but the ransom note basically stated that I want a helicopter, a lone pilot, I want the flight going onto the Highway 50, signaled by a strobe light, we don't want any weapons, we don't want anybody riding shotgun. By the way, happy landing, it says on the note, right?
Yeah.
But the note was on an elevator, a letter, and the letter stated what on it?
Well, it was taped onto the bomb in a manila type envelope. And what it did is the tape had let go, and so the envelope fell to the ground. So you have this large envelope that says this is a bomb. And when security finally got in there, they saw that, and they hid behind the bomb, using it as a shield, while they poked this letter with a broomstick to see if it's a bomb. Or
they thought the letter that stated this is a bomb was the actual bomb, not the 2,000-pound thing that they're basically leaning against.
And they were climbing all over it. It's amazing that it didn't go off. Thank God it didn't go off. So.
All right. Speaking of which, eventually there's negotiations that occur, and your dad tries to tell them, hey, as part of the negotiations, you guys haven't gotten the money to me yet. I want you to go flip switch number 5, and that'll delay some more of it, or something to that effect. What's this thing with switch number 5 on this bomb?
It was a dummy switch. There was 23 switches in the front, and only one mattered. And that disarmed the pendulum device, the motion detector, so that you could safely move the bomb. But the bomb was going off in 7 days, no matter where it was.
So there was a So was it really sophisticated, or was your dad just bluffing and he was just conniving, basically?
They actually, still to this day, they have 4 working models of this that they use in Conoco, West Virginia, to train the FBI bomb squad there.
Oh, it really was.
To this day, nobody has been able to disarm it. Every attempt made for to disarm it, they brought in Lawrence Livermore Labs. They brought in all the best minds in that area of law enforcement, and to this day, they still can't disarm it.
Did he do that all himself?
Yeah, and he never had one day of any kind of formal education. He was just a genius, and he applied it the wrong way. Applied it to the wrong areas.
Absolutely. Okay, so at some point, this makes national news, and it is live on TV. The whole scenario lasts about 33 hours. At some point, though, it was sort of continuous on the news. I remember sitting there in front of the TV watching it. Where are you at this time?
Well, he was, when it went off, part of the ransom pickup, he had involved his girlfriend at the time, and several things happened. A comedy of errors happened during this time. She got in a car wreck up there. My brother got a speeding ticket. The
battery on the van died.
The battery on the van. Then there was a delay putting in the bomb one day because it would have blown up had they armed it. They had to troubleshoot it. They checked into a hotel, caused a bunch of racket. That hotel owner came out, wrote down the license number of the van. Yeah,
because someone was rude to them from your dad's group.
So there was all this circumstantial evidence putting everybody in the general area, and but still wasn't approved. But when the bomb went off, we were actually at the Placerville Hospital picking up his girlfriend because she got injured in the car wreck.
Oh my gosh! So you weren't here in Fresno. You guys actually went up there.
He went up there to try to do another ransom drop.
Yeah,
that's what he was working on.
So are you watching it live on TV also?
Yeah. That's how it is.
I mean, at some point, aren't you? You're an 18-year-old kid. This thing could potentially kill hundreds of people. At some point, are you tempted to call the authorities yourself? Are you tempted to? I mean, aren't you scared? I won't say it, but aren't you scared? S-less? Can I say that?
Yeah. The thing, it's just I can't even. I often now look back on that and say, to shake my head in disbelief that why didn't I call the police? Why didn't it just? Unless you've been through what me and my brother went through, you really can't justify it to somebody not calling the police. But we were brainwashed to the point where we drank the Kool-Aid.
Okay. When it goes off, do you have this sense of more fear, or do you have this sense, because you are brainwashed, that, we finally got back at this guy, and you're titillated by it, like I said in the opening?
We're just relieved that nobody got hurt, and now nobody got hurt. And then just relieved, a sigh of relief. Okay, well, life goes on. But then he winds up stealing another 1,000 pounds of dynamite, and he's going to build another bomb.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, he was going to make a remote control bomb, drive it into the Bank of America building in San Francisco, and blow it. So he was on the bomb quest.
How did they finally catch you?
Well, all those things in all the thousands of man hours put them in there as all circumstantial. What they wound up doing is having my brother testify to the grand jury and charged him with perjury. They made him lie about something. That's a tool as an attorney to gain leverage on somebody. Yeah,
they got him to say something that was false, and they say, we're going to now charge you if you don't testify against your dad.
Yeah, and they
turned state's evidence.
Arrested him at a 4:30 on a Friday, made the bail $2 million, so he was going to spend the weekend in jail. Threw him in jail, put some unruly cellmates in.
Yeah.
There were FBI agents, but they were posing
as gang members or whatever
for the weekend. So he finally said, F this. Yeah. I'm not going to jail for this. And the FBI, I was acting like I was cooperating with the FBI, and they had orchestrated for me to be down at the federal building at the same time that he was arrested. And then what they did was the FBI agents came into our interview room, and then said, hey, your brother's here. He's talking. He's telling us. I go, no way. There's no way. You're lying to me. And,
you couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it.
Did you think he was being disloyal to your dad?
I just couldn't believe it. I thought the FBI was lying to me. And then at some point, do you need to?
No, go ahead. Go ahead real quick.
So then the FBI agents, they really felt bad. They knew the story, the backstory was how much we were abused and everything. And the FBI agent just says, hey, at some point you got to have faith. You know, you're on the dock, the boat's going. Yeah, and I still couldn't do it.
Yeah, are you going to be on our boat or
And I was on the verge of tears, and I said, I just can't. And then he told me a tidbit that my brother told him that no way they would have known.
Which was?
I wish I could remember what it was, but there was no way. And I just broke down, lost it. So
yeah, and I understand that you broke down there. You broke down in your trial testimony, and we're going to get into all that stuff right after this. This is the Mark Capitan Show. We are on with Jim Birges, who is the son of John Birges, the mastermind of the Harvey's bombing in 1980. We'll be right back after this. This is KMJ. Welcome back to the Mark Capitan Show. I want to get right back into it with Jimmy Birges, who is the son of the mastermind of the 1980s bombing of Harvey's casino. Jimmy, do you hate to hear that? Is it bug you to be referred to as the son of John Birges?
No, because enough time has passed and nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
Nobody has any love lost for a casino because they've all lost money there. So, it really isn't like it was.
Yeah, and like you said, at the beginning, it doesn't define your life. By the way, I understand at one point some movie makers were looking at doing a movie on this, and they were going to cast Justin Timberlake to be you.
Yeah, that was about 20 years ago. Nick Cassavetes was going to write and direct it, and they actually had De Niro slated to be my dad. And,
wow. That must have made you feel good, though, Justin Timberlake. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, want to have a...
Doesn't everybody dream about who's going to play you, Marcella, in the movies? All right, listen, on a serious note, the last segment you were talking about how the police finally said that your brother had agreed to turn state's evidence against your dad. You couldn't quite believe it, but you knew it was true from something personal that they had said about your brother. And then you broke down in tears because you realized you were going to have to do the same thing, right?
Well, the pressure was so intense. What they would do, the FBI was basically following us for the entire year. Every phone call I made, they had something back then called a pen register.
Yeah.
That was a caller ID of the 1980s.
We used to request those. Yeah.
So every time, and I was a young guy and I was dating her, so I'd be talking to a gal and I'd go over pick her up, and the parents would come running out, get away from me. FBI was just here. So everybody I called, they were just there. And and plus it being one of the biggest events of 1980, and you are keeping all these secrets, the pressure was overwhelming for you. Right. And they actually, after it was all said and done, the FBI said they've had mobsters crack quicker than we did.
You're a tough cookie, huh?
We just, the loyalty was entrenched. But
Okay.
at that point...
and that's the interesting part that I thought is... At some point, you actually do testify against your dad, right?
In the state trial, yes.
In the state trial. Did you ever get... And he gets convicted, and he spends the rest of his life in prison, right?
Right.
Okay. I understand you're in tears while you're testifying against your dad.
Well, in the federal trial was easy because he had an attorney... and you were somewhat insulated. He didn't say nothing to you. You didn't have to look at him, whatever. But in the state trial, he acted as his own attorney.
Oh, wait a minute. So he's actually cross-examining you?
And it was 2 days of a manifesto that he had on it was a speech. He forwent the ability to get off on double jeopardy just so he could inflict pain on my brother and myself under testimony by...
So you mentioned during the break about the double jeopardy. Yes, they tried him as the feds, and they were going to agree to not state charges, but the state finally said that we want to do that. They agreed to let everybody else go, but they were going to try your dad. And instead of just rolling over and entering a plea because he was already convicted federally, he basically said, I'm going to fight this whole thing, including making speeches and cross-examining you guys.
Yeah, it's 2 days on the stand of, going over the supposed affairs that my mother had, just this huge manifesto of
so the question that I had before you said that was, did you ever get a sense of remorse or forgiveness or understanding from your dad that, yes, sons, I understand you had to testify against me and do these things, but I forgive you for it? And it sounds like absolutely not.
No, in fact, he was under the assumption that had we not said this, he would have never been in jail.
Oh, my God.
And he just... he had some property in Austria before it was all coming down. I had a little bit of money saved. I said, here, go buy a plane ticket, at least flee to Austria. You can hide there for a while or whatever. He said, I'll never get caught. And
oh, you actually thought, hey, Dad, I got a plan, or why don't you here's some money,
property in Austria that he had over there that he had bought.
So as rough as he was with you guys, you were still doing everything as sons to help him out.
Trying, yeah.
He lives for another, 16 years before he dies of cancer in prison, right? At any point, do you guys have a father-son discussion? Is there any resolution of this whole matter?
When the first day he got arrested here and was in Fresno, I wrote a letter to him in jail, and the letter I received back was just basically blaming me and my brother for everything, for him getting arrested. We're a piece of garbage, yada yada. So, and that was the last communication never, other than the witness stand.
Never.
And then after that date, ever.
Any attempts by you or by him?
No. And the only reason I knew he passed, I read it in the Fresno Bee. So
you like you said, it didn't define my life. I left it all behind.
Yeah, I was just flatline when I didn't raise a needle on me whatsoever when he passed.
A little more tragedy happens. Listen, I understand that your brother, did you ever have a relationship with your brother after that?
We were always there. My dad would always pit us against competing with each other fiercely. And so if me and my brother were in the same room for more than 5 minutes, it'd be fisticuffs.
Well, that sounds like the Capitan brothers, right there.
So he just got lost in drugs and alcohol. He wound up, I thought he had turned the corner, was building surfboards and living in Nicaragua and surfing every day. And he, I think, had some mental illness or whatever with all his drugs and alcohol. And he got a hold of the autopsy report on my mother's death. And he never came to terms with that anyway. But then when you read that, the possibility of that she was killed versus a suicide just sent him over the deep end. So,
and he committed suicide himself, just about 4 years ago.
Yeah, he hung himself down there.
How's it affected your life other than that? I mean, you have a lovely wife. Marcella says she's just beautiful, Holly. You have 3 children. You learned to raise them, I'm assuming, way differently than you were raised yourself. Yeah,
probably a little bit more towards the other extreme. My son is just finishing his residency as a doctor, and my daughter's teaching 5th grade, my middle daughter, and has her master's degree, and my youngest one is 18 and finding her path. But they're all good kids, never in trouble, came out okay.
So basically, whatever kills you doesn't make you stronger. Makes you stronger, right?
Yeah, in this case.
Yeah. You have an amazing story. Just a truly crazy. Do you look back on 1980 in August with any? Do you look back at it and say that was my 80s? That was my 18th birthday. That was the craziest, most exciting time in my life. The roughest time of my life. What's your final thought about that?
It's almost surreal. It's almost like I'm a spectator to that part of my life.
Yeah.
Because I've changed who I am so much from that. And it's just difficult to even try to figure out why I went along with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
get
it's
it.
just
Jimmy Birges, thank you for being on the show. That was just a fascinating story. Thanks, Jimmy. Good luck to you in the future.
thank you very much.
All right, buddy. See ya.